All right, good morning. It is 9 o'clock, January 24th, 2022. This is the Administrative Control Building of Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling District. I am Scott Brackett. I'm currently the chair, although we will be changing that very, very quickly. Before we get started, I would like to have Anthony, if you do a roll call so we can confirm who we have in attendance and make sure that we have a quorum, I would appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. I have currently in attendance here at the location, Board Member Diane Turner from Murray City and Board Member Keith Sussman from the town of Brighton. Online, I have Board Chair Scott Bracken from Cottonwood Heights, Board Member Sherry Orn, Vice Chair from Harriman City, Board Member Anna Barbieri from Taylorsville, Board Member Jim Bradley from Salt Lake County, Board Member Phil Cardenas from White City Metro Township, Board Member Daniel Gibbons from Holiday City, Board Member Cindy Sharkey from Sandy City, Board Member Patrick Schaefer from Kearns Metro Township, and Board Member Tessa Stitzer from Copperton Metro Township. Are there any board members in attendance that I did not read?
Could you just read Tom and Robert that are here?
Okay, I would like to mention that we do have in attendance Council Member Robert Pinion from Immigration Canyon and also Council Member Tom DeSirant from Mill Creek, who will become sworn in board members this next month.
There's Catherine.
Oh, and we just have Board Member Catherine Harris from Immigration, who just logged on as well. So
Okay,
just like,
hi everybody. I'm trying to adjust the light so it's not quite so bright behind me.
okay, for those who are online, would ask that you please mute your microphone unless speaking. However, when speaking, please speak up for the video broadcast and recording. And also when speaking, please state your name and the municipality that you represent. Thank you, Board Chair Bracken.
All right, looks like we have, I would say a full house, but it's more like a full Zoom and a full house. So the first item of business we have is the oath of office for new board members. That will be Anthony. You'll be taking the head on that. So let's get that taken care of.
Yes, thank you. This past week, we did swear in Board Member Eric Barney from Magna Metro Township and also Board Member Cindy Sharkey from Sandy City. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be swearing in Councilman Tom DeSirant and also Council Member Pinion from Immigration Township. We will be doing that in the next week or so before the next board meeting.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is the minutes from our last meeting in November when we approved the budget and had our public hearing. Are there any questions or comments on there's also a conflict of interest approval on the consent calendar. Is there any comments or questions on those? Not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent items.
I'll move approval to the consent items. Move to approve the consent items. Diane Turner, Murray City.
Catherine Harris, Immigration Township. I'll second.
All right, if there are no other comments or questions, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, hearing none, those will stand approved. As is usual, we have the time for open comments from the public. Anthony, is there anyone there in the at the office location or online that would like to comment that you're aware of?
There are no members of the public here at the Anchor location, and I have not received any emails to be read as far as public comments.
And we don't have anybody online that might be. Okay.
Not, I see, out of the ordinary.
Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll move on to the business items. It is the first meeting of the year, and as is our process, we transition my role as chair off and put the vice chair in that position. That is board member Orn. I'm assuming all we need is we need a motion and a second to do that. Is that correct? I'm not down on my agenda. I need to get there.
Mr. Chair, Dan Gibbons from Holiday City. I would move that we formally transition the board chair from Chairman Scott Bracken to Vice Chair Sherry Orn, who would be the chair during the coming year.
Thank you, Dan. Is there a second?
Eric Barney, Magnite, second.
All right. Is there any discussion? Well, I would thank Sherry for her work. We've been at this for a little bit with some of the, we had our former chair 2 years ago move across the street out of his district. And so we've actually been at it for a little bit longer than a year. But with that, I have a motion to approve that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Okay, with that being the case, I will turn the meeting over to our new chair, Sherry Orn.
Thanks, Scott. And I just want to thank you for your service and all the hard work that you've put in and continue to put in for the district. I look forward to serving. That being said, let's move right into our next item of business, 4.2, election of Dan Gibbons as the 2022 board vice chair. Do you have any comments? If not, I could take a motion.
I'll make a motion. Anna Barbieri from Taylorsville City. We approve the election of Dan Gibbons as the 2022 vice chair.
I would second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the item? Okay, if not, I'll call for the vote. All those who are in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any, thanks, I forget the delay. Any opposed? Okay, perfect, that motion carries. Next item is 4.3, refund credit request for indigent health, oh, sorry, it went away. Hardship relief, Pam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you, board members that have been with us for a little while, we do have an indigent relief for people that apply through the Treasurer's Office at Salt Lake County and are approved that they are indeed low-income, indigent, or have a hardship. We have a case where a resident was approved for that relief, and we did not catch that. We didn't get that report. So he did call us and report that we missed that. We were incorrectly billing him. So we went back for the what's allowed for the 2 years under my authority. We went back and credited him 2 years. However, our resident is asking for the full 4 years, which that needs to come to you as a board. So we've already approved the 204, which is basically half the rate. Let me back up. So what that means is that if they are approved for indigent or hardship, they get charged half of the annual rate or half of the monthly rate, and we charge them the full. So we are refunding 2 years worth of half rate at 102, which totals the 204, and then I'm requesting that an additional 2 year, which would be another $204 for Mr. I'm going to say his name incorrectly, but our resident if you would approve that, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Pam, do you just need us to vote on approval or make a motion?
Motion and approve, please.
Okay. Can I get a motion on this?
Catherine Harris, Immigration Township, I would move that we approve the motion as recommended by the staff.
Second, Dan Gibbons and Holiday.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, perfect. That motion carries. Thank you for that. Item 4.4, request consent for the appointment of new controller treasurer Matthew Ferguson. Pam.
Thank you. So I'm going to have Paul also help with this introduction, but Matt is here with us physically. He's sitting up front. Matt has 20 years of experience for working in the government sector for Salt Lake County and for the state of Utah. And he went through a very competitive process of interviewing, and we had really qualified applicants, and Matt was the top selection. Paul, do you want to jump in at all?
Well, we're just happy to have Matt here. We appreciate Craig's efforts and what he's done for the district over the last several years. But we really feel that Matt can step in and help the district and help contribute to our successes. So he's also, has an MBA and is a CPA, so he's got those credentials. But we appreciate having him here and look forward to a lot of success in the future working together.
Matt, any words that you'd like to offer or intro?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say it's a pleasure being here, and I'm so thrilled to have been offered this position. I hope to meet and exceed expectations as much as possible, and I really look forward to this. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you, Matt. So Matt will be Craig's successor. Craig Adams has been our accountant, then moved into the assistant controller and then controller position as we have evolved as an organization. His last day will be February 28th, and we will have a resolution on the 28th for you to adopt to recognize Craig's great efforts since late 2012, is the first time he was hired. So just asking for your approval.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Does anyone have any comments or questions? We're excited for you to come on board, Matthew, and look forward to working with you. Does anyone on the board have any comments?
No, maybe sometime a good chunk of us will be there and we'll eventually see what you look like.
Exactly.
I move that we approve the appointment of Matt Ferguson as the new controller treasurer.
Santa Barbieri, I'll second that.
Perfect. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, if not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of approval, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Congratulations, Matthew. Next on the agenda is 4.5, 2021 preliminary fourth quarter financial report. Paul.
Thank you. Good morning again, everyone. And we're going to recap the year really with this report. I want to start off by, I've mentioned this before, but these are preliminary financial numbers, and some of them will change. We still do not have a couple of our reports in, the URS report, the report from another actuary that gets us information on another liability that we have, and then we still have a few accounts and things we're looking at. And so these numbers will change, and I just want to make sure everyone understands that. I still think there's value in us going through this. A lot of these numbers will not change, and it does give us a good picture of kind of where we're at in the year. So We'll go to the next slide. Total revenues increased 57,000 from 2020 to 2021. It was primarily due to an increase in residential waste collection fees of 155,000 and a $236,000 increase in green curbside fees due to increased number of subscribers. And our subscribers went up a little over 1,000 for the green curbside program during the past year. And just for a base, the end of December, we were about 8,400 of December 20, and of December 21, we were about 9,500. So it was a good increase for us, and both of those revenues are generally recurring, and so I like that from a financial standpoint. But those increases were partly offset by a $212,000 decrease in miscellaneous revenue and a $100,000 decrease in interest income. And as far as the interest income goes, we invest, and we'll talk about this a little later, in two different funds, the Zions Investment Fund and PTIF. I went back and looked, and I knew this, but just for numbers, in January of 20, so really 3 years ago, we were getting 2.25% on our funds in PTIF. The end of December 20, the first part of January 21, we were getting 0.5%, and now we're getting about 1/3 of 1%. So that's what's happened with the interest income. We'll see what happens. You know, there's rumblings, and we'll see if those rates increase. But that has contributed to, you know, a decrease in what we get there. But overall, our revenues, we really had a pretty good year.
Paul?
And
I got a question from Anna Barbieri.
Yeah.
Is the green curbside program paying for itself? That was a question from Board Member Barbieri.
I'm not sure on that. I have not gone back and looked in total, you know, a standalone. I'd have to look at that, and I could come back with that, so.
That'd be great. Maybe just report when you get an idea of what that is costing us or what we're getting from that. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay. Thank you. I will do that and can provide that at the next meeting. So, any other questions on revenues before we move on here? Okay. The next slide is personnel expenses, and this is where we will have some changes on the pension and then the OPEB. Down there you can see the numbers. We have not received them yet. But we anticipated an increase in personnel expenses for this year, and overall they increased $404,000 from 2020, primarily due to increased wages of $256,000, increased overtime wages of $61,000, and increased pension expense of $53,000, and increased health insurance expense of $66,000. And so, as I said, we anticipated this. We thought that would happen, and we anticipate that our wages and related benefits will increase in the future. And that kind of leads into one of the topics I wanted to just touch on, was the inflationary pressures we're feeling. This is one area, and we went to the board the last 2 years during the year and got increases for our equipment operators. We appreciate that. But you know, the market's constantly changing, and we still feel, you know, some pressure there as far as wages and what we're paying. But another thing, well, a couple other areas we're seeing pressures or inflationary pressures are fuel, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. Also, our purchases. Pam will talk about that later in the meeting. And when I say purchases, I'm talking about trucks and assets, those type of things. Also, the cans that we purchase, they're increasing in cost. And then, like I said, fuel, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. But we are feeling the increased cost of just about everything. But looking at our personnel expenses here, we were 95% of budget for the year, about 96%. And overall, it was about what we expected, maybe a little under actually, but we still could get some significant numbers in here that would change that bottom line number. So any questions on personnel expenses? Okay. We'll move on. This is our operating expense sheet. that recaps our operating expenses. And so our total operating expenses in 2021 decreased a little over 1.1 million compared to 2020, primarily due to decreased recycling fees of 731,000, decreased depreciation expense of 314,000, decreased truck lease expense of 136,000, and decreased landfill fees of 94,000. Those decreases were offset by an increase in fuel expense of 130,000, and canned purchases increased 109,000. And so the thing that really helped us, and I didn't point this out in the revenue section, but the one big item that really helped us was the reduction in recycling fees. And we have more detail coming up on that. We'll talk about that additionally in a minute. But there was some months, and we'll see this too, where there was actually, we received revenue in for recycling, from the recycling we picked up. And so that's a real benefit to us overall to have that down over 700,000. It really helped us out expense-wise, and really almost more importantly than that, our cash, it helped out the cash. And so we'll talk about a few more of these as we go through some of the details. But just big picture, right now we're showing revenues less expenses, a negative 205,000. Last year that was a little over $1 million, and that is the final number from last year, that $1.6 million. But so far that's where we're at as far as expenses go this year. We'll talk about a few of these just in additional slides coming up. But are there any questions on overall where we're at right now as far as financially or the operating expenses on these slides?
Got an incoming question from Board Member Bradley. I seem to log, oh, sorry, never mind, that's a personal thing. Someone logged in twice, wanting help.
Okay. Okay, I guess
Questions, we're moving?
We'll move forward. Okay, this was something that we just started the last year or so to show at the board meetings. And this is the number of customers a year end, and this is for basic service. And so this is for a recycle and a refuse can that get picked up once a week. And so, and just on this one, I started off at 82,000 there on the graph. So just take that into consideration. It didn't start at zero. But when I started at zero, it didn't show much difference, and I wanted to be able to show these numbers. But overall for the year, we're up just a little in our basic service as far as the number of customers that we have. And we have had some areas this year where they were private roads or they were unsafe, and we stopped service in those areas. And so this is the net increase. The next one is the fuel expense, the next slide. And a lot of times I'll show 4 years on some of these slides, and that's a little unusual. A lot of times when you present financial information, it's 2 years, but I really like having 4 years, and it provides some context and additional meaning for me, and helps, I think, give a picture to the board members. And so overall, you can look there and see in 2019, our fuel cost actually went down about 9%. In 2020, it stayed relatively stable, and in 2021, we're up 13%. And those increases, CNG's was up about 10 or 11 cents per gallon, and diesel was up approximately $1.20 per gallon. We took an average diesel price in 2020 versus 2021, and it's up about $1.20 a gallon. And so you can see there, up significantly, up 13%. We did budget an increase for this for 2022. We'll see how close we are, and what happens with those underlying markets. But this is a significant cost for us, and one we watch. The next one's maintenance expense. Again, we show 4 years here. In 2019, we were down 6%. we were up 6% versus 2018. In 2020, it went up 14%. There you can see a pretty significant increase in 2020. And then in 2021, I have a wrong number there on the graph. That should be 2021 on the far right there. But that shows that we actually had a decrease of about 2% in 2021. And so that's good news in some ways. I think we have to kind of be a little cautious there. We did use fewer trucks this year and had more hours on the trucks that we did use. Also, we're looking at it, we've started to get, in the recent past, we have a different type of equipment that we think is benefiting us. And then another thing to consider is we are having difficulty obtaining parts, and we have more trucks down needing repair now on average than we have in the past too. And that's one factor that may come into play there too. And so we'll just watch that in the coming year and see how that plays out. But we are feeling, the lack of parts and being able to get some of the things that are needed to repair these trucks.
We are.
The next one, this is total refuse tons delivered to different sites. The total up at the top is, there's 4 years again there reported, 18, 19, 20, and 21. And then down below are the different sites that we take refuse to. We did start taking refuse again this year to ACE. You can see there we did not take anything there in 2020, and so we're back to taking some refuse to ACE. Also, just wanted to point out a couple things, is the transfer station, we've decreased some there since 2018, but that decrease was primarily offset by an increase to the landfill. And there was some pricing incentives there that the county did that encouraged us to take refuse to the landfill. Just wanted to let everyone know kind of where we're at on pricing. At the end of the year, Transjordan was $35 a ton. ACE was about $32 to $33 a ton. The landfill was $27, and the transfer station was $33. And so you hear those and you go, well, why don't we always go to the cheapest one? And it really just depends upon the location of where we're picking up and where that site's at. And then I've talked with Pam, and I think there is some value in having more than one site that we take to also, and just have some different options. And so that was part of, I think, the thought process with ACE, and then also just their location can help us out too on certain days.
And if I may just remind board members, and for newer board members, we kind of went through this on our orientation, but we have an interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County to take 94,000 tons annually to their facilities, which would be the landfill and the transfer station. And that was amended just last year, and that's what allowed us to take waste to the ACE transfer station, and it's just in the west portion of Taylorsville that goes to that transfer station. So it's working. Price and proximity. Remember those two P's, price and proximity.
Okay, the next slide, and this just shows 4 years of our recycled tons, and this is what's delivered to the processors. We see in 2019 it decreased about 3%, in 2020 about 2%, and then in 2021 we're down about 4% from the prior year. So it's really a pretty consistent trend where there's a decrease every year on the number of tons that we've collected and delivered. Okay, this was, I mentioned before, we'll talk more about recycling. This graph is recycling cost per ton. And so when it shows those lines above zero, that's actually a cost that we're paying per ton. And then when it's below zero and shows a negative, that's actually a revenue on this graph and the way we present this. But show 5 years here. I wanted to show this because, well, we show this all the time. I think it's a good graph in the sense it gives you some idea of the volatility with recycling. And you think about it, the high point, I think was back there, we got almost up to $70 a ton. The highest was June 2019, and we were at $68 a ton. And then we got down and we were collecting almost, getting almost $20 a ton this year. And so it really varies, not this year, that was 2017. But this really just shows the volatility, and it's not just one underlying commodity market. There's numerous markets in commodity markets that, you know, come into play when they're determining what we pay or what we receive for recycling. And so, starting off, you can see there, 2017, we actually collected some money for recycling there at the end of 2017, September, October, November, and then it shot up. There for a few years, we were paying, you know, generally from $45 to $65, $70 a ton. And then the red line is this year, and you can see that decrease in what's happened there. And so it decreased fairly significantly this year from paying about $38 a ton down to where we were getting about $10 a ton. And then it increased in December. And so that's kind of where we're at, but a lot of volatility there. The budget for 2022, we budgeted $30 a ton, and so we'll see how that plays out. Anthony, any question?
Board Member Barbieri asks, remind me the cost to the resident of a recycling can.
It's in the monthly fee. It's all inclusive, Board Member Barbieri. The $17 a month is all inclusive for the services that we provide.
Oh, thank you. So
You're
even if
welcome.
you don't want to recycle, do they get a can? Remind me of that.
Did you say even if they don't want to?
Yeah, even if a resident says, it's not worth it for me to recycle things, they still receive a recycling can?
They do receive a can. However, if they want us to remove that can, we will, but they still, the price does not change. The fee does not change.
So I'm looking at this, and if we could make money on it, then we could do some more advertising to recycle, if I'm hearing that correctly, but it looks like it might be going up this year again. What are your thoughts?
I think I caught most of that, Board Member Barbieri. So you're asking, I think you're asking if it is going up, the cost, is that correct?
Yes, I'm looking at it going, well, I'm more than happy to do whatever I can to encourage our residents in Taylorsville to recycle. If I look at the numbers and we anticipate it going up to $20 a ton to recycle, then theoretically, do I want to encourage people to recycle?
Yeah, very good question. So if we look at it just strictly on the price per ton that we pay, if you look at recycling it, even if it goes as high as $20 a ton, which I don't think it'll go up that high and stay that high, at least from what the markets are showing right now and the future reports that are showing. And then, so let's say it is $20 a ton. If we take it to the landfill, it's $27 a ton. If we take it to the transfer station, it's $34 a ton. So there's still a savings there of it going for recycling versus landfilling of dollar amount. And then, of course, the environmental impact and that cost is high as well. So, yeah, very good questions.
So technically, I could tell people on Facebook and our sources of social media, there may be a chance that we can keep our waste and recycling costs lower if we recycle and have a refund and get a rebate, or we make money on that. But in the end of the day, we will save money from taking it to landfill, potentially.
We will save money if it does not go to the landfill.
Okay.
Yeah, and Yeah, you bet. And part of our sustainability coordinator's role and responsibility is to push out that education. And when we get into my report, I'll introduce, well, she's not here yet, but I'll introduce our new sustainability coordinator that's taking Ethan Morris's spot.
Great, thank you.
Pam,
Board
Dan
Member
Gibbons and Holiday, if I could, just a follow-up question. We've talked in the past about contamination rates of the recycled material from our residents, and how if there's contamination, then it's not, we can't really we can't make any money on it. Can you comment on what our contamination rate is and how that might have played into the August through November, credit we're getting on recycles?
Sure. So August through September, the contamination rates really have, how do I want to frame this? They really haven't changed a lot. On average, we're right in the 20 to 25 percentile of contamination. But what really makes a difference of that cost going up are the commodity markets. So that's what that influences. Yes, there is a little bit of a additional charge that Waste Management has started charging us in July for contamination. It's up to $5 to $10 per ton if there's over a certain percentage of contamination. So if there's 20%, we're going to get charged $5 extra per ton from them. But really what influenced that piece going up to almost $10 a ton at the end of 2021 is the commodity market. And just so you know, that's not uncommon. What happens is that the production of paper is really high just before the holidays because they are basically generating greeting cards and other materials for Christmas, for the holidays. And then that kind of tapers off come December. So we'll start to see a little bit of an increase of what we pay to process going through those months. And then by spring, it comes down, or it actually starts to come down as far as pricing, and we start to get back to a revenue, generally speaking, come February, March.
Yeah, and I guess one of my points is we can't control the commodities market, but we can, to some extent, control the contamination rate by education. And I wonder if I'm sure that's a continuing effort on our part, is to see if we can, train our people not to put certain items in the blue can, such as garbage bags and pizza boxes and that kind of thing.
Yes, you are correct. Thank you. You are correct.
Board Member Sharkey.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Board Member Sharkey had the question.
Yeah, Board Member Sharkey is asking why the downward trend in recycle tons.
We've talked about that some in the past, and I don't know if our contamination rates, this is what we've delivered. And so I don't know if that has been influenced by education or by contamination rates, or sometimes do people just get tired of dealing with it and they don't want to deal with it. I'm not sure on that. Pam, do you have any thoughts?
We can only go by speculation on what our residents tell us. So we do anticipate that once we started pushing the education of what not to put in that blue bin, of what's really not recyclable, we did start to see a trend down, which we think is good because we're thinking that there's less garbage in there. So that's a thought, definitely.
That's what I was going to say, was that there were some changes on where we could take our recycling. The commodities markets quit taking it, so our costs were significantly higher. If you look at that, there was 2.5 years there where it didn't make economic sense alone to continue to our recycling. It would have been cheaper for us to just take it to the landfill, but we had the infrastructure in place to do the recycling every week. There's the not just the economic, but the ecological impact of recycling. And so the board decided through those couple of years to continue on, keep our infrastructure in place, because we figured that the costs for recycling would be going down. And now they've changed. I know when I started on the board, our biggest revenue source out of recycling by weight was still the aluminum cans. That's completely changed now to where it's cardboard and paper products. With China and some of the areas not taking paper the way they used to, it's taken a while, but now we're building local recycling places for our paper that have then turned it in again to where it's potentially a revenue source.
Thank you for that explanation. You just would have thought, if you take a look at a long view at historicals, you may get one result. But if we take into consideration, you know, the pandemic and the assumption that what we'd be getting is a lot more recyclable products like cardboard, which does have a market demand from what I understand, it still kind of comes as a surprise that we wouldn't have seen an effective uptick in hauling of recyclables just because of the pandemic. So and it may just be you've been doing a good job at education. So on balance, the things you don't want aren't going in, but I just would have expected somewhat of a different result just because of the pandemic. That's all. Just curious.
And it may be that what we need to do now that we are seeing the market change a little bit is re-up our campaign on encouraging people, because I think we cooled off on it a little bit for a while, just simply because when you're paying such a high price on it, we were trying to educate on what not to put in there and those types of things. And maybe now we make a better push for people to start putting things back in there now that we're seeing the market being better generating for revenue for us, or less cost anyway.
Thank you.
Give us your cardboard, your paper, your huddled tin cans, and
Clean.
And definitely put steel in, those soup cans and cans of, those are very valuable, the steel. Please put those in. Okay?
Okay. And just one more thing on recycling, we take it to two different sites, Waste Management and Rocky Mountain Recycling. And so we have two companies that we deal with there. This is our cash balances sheet, kind of a summary for the last 4 years. And this does include our investment accounts, PTIF and Zions Investment. I do include them in here because they're very liquid investments. We have access to those funds when needed, and they're really relatively safe, and we have access. And so I do include those in here. We can see overall from last year, our cash went down about $600,000. But when we look at the graph, the lines are pretty tight together, and I wouldn't get too caught up in, one line, but it's interesting to me to see just the trends. And when you see the increases or the peaks there, the high points, that's generally after our billing. We bill for our base service on a quarterly basis after the quarter, and so for example, in January, we'll bill for October through December, and then we start getting significant cash in towards the end of January and then in February. And so you see that play out during the year. And then also, one thing that comes into play is when we pay for trucks, and they're a significant amount usually, and that will affect our cash balance and show up here too at times when we're paying for those trucks. And so for this year example, we paid quite a bit for the trucks in December, and you can see that and what that consequence was for the cash balance. Okay, this is our capital expenditures for 2021, and just a recap of what we had budgeted and then the actual amount that we spent. So we purchased 8 side-load CNG trucks. We did receive them in towards the end of the year. We received all 8, and fortunate that we got those, I think, and did pay for them, and so that came in a little under budget on those trucks. We did put an order in for 2 light-duty trucks, and we have not received those. We anticipated getting them in 2021, but just with the delays and what's gone on in some of those markets, we did not receive those 2 light-duty trucks. And so hopefully we get those in the coming months. We've talked about in the past, and we did order 2 front-load CNG trucks. We did pay $339,000 for them in 2021. And just a reminder on the trucks, we have 2 vendors. One is for the chassis and the engine, and then the other is for the arm and some of the equipment that goes on the truck. And so there's 2 different vendors there. And we split that up really over 2 years on those front load trucks. And then the last expenditure was the CNG fuel island expansion. We expanded that and added more fueling capacity in 2021 and started to use that, I think it was in August. And so that's kind of a recap of our capital expenditures for 2021. And then this is a summary of certification balances. And certifications, just a quick recap, that we talk about certification balances, but we are able to send a file with customers that are past due or that have not paid us to the county, and then their amount that's past due is included on the property tax statements and that go out and that receive payment in November. And so this really helps us out on our collections. It's a great benefit for the district, and I appreciate it. It would be really difficult, you know, collection-wise. You look at that, and we've been a little over $2 million every year, and you think that's probably pretty close to $204 increments, and that's a lot of collection to do. And so this really helps us out. We appreciate that we're able to do that, and it's a great cash collection tool.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to just leave out there.
Oh. Any questions, comments?
This is Eric Barney from Magna. We're looking at the December 2021. Why the significant increase?
It just takes time. We collect that as time goes on, and we've got most of it in. I think we sent that file, the $2,166,000, we sent that to the county this fall. I think it was in September. That was in the property tax statements, and then that's what we've gotten. Well, we've gotten paid so far out of the $2,166,000 over $2 million. And so as time goes on, we'll collect more of that $146,000. And we anticipate that, and that's how it's trended in the past. But that's just the amount that's outstanding from this year.
Gotcha.
And even if it's on even if it's on property tax statement, we still don't get 100% collection sometimes, but we do pretty good.
Does that amount as of this year compare to previous years? Is it up or down, or?
I think it's pretty close. I'm not sure. I think that's pretty close to what it's been in the past, because I do know it goes down over time.
If you look at each
right
year, as you get older and older, you get a higher percentage collection because people end up getting their taxes paid.
My question was, is our year to year, like in 2020, how much did we have outstanding that we had to collect at the end of the year versus 2021 outstanding? What did that look like? I understand that the graph, this chart shows 2017, we only have $7,000 outstanding that needs to be collected, or in 2018. But I'm talking, if we compared the end of the year 2020 to end of the year 2021, is that trend the same, or are people becoming less inclined to pay over time?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't have that number on the top of my head. I can get it fairly easy, but I don't have that number, what was outstanding for 2020 as of that point in time. So I'd have to look at that. I would guess it would be pretty similar, but I'm not sure. So.
Board Member Barney.
Yes.
So on the right-hand column, those are all the certified amounts. So in 2021, it was 2.1, 2020, it was 2.2, 2019, it's pretty consistent how much we end up certifying. out, and then they come in fairly quickly because most of that goes out with people's property tax, and then their mortgage companies pay the taxes, and so it kind of takes care of itself over those couple of months. And so we don't usually see a big lag in that. Like this one is because people might be, the 146 seems like it's usually comes to about that amount because people are a little bit lagging and they get their delinquent tax notice because they don't have a mortgage, and then they get it taken care of. It seems pretty standard. That's just my opinion on it.
Cool, thanks. Just asking so I can understand.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for your question. Okay. Anybody else? Do you have anything else on this, Paul?
Nope, that's it, unless we have any more questions.
Okay, perfect. We're going to go on to the next item on our agenda, 4.6, contract price increase for collection truck chassis, Pam.
Okay, so just a reminder for those that were with us last year, in August, I came before you to ask for a contract price increase for the bodies of our trucks because the price of steel escalated so high, and you did authorize that price increase. Our truck chassis vendor came to us in December to let us know that they could not give us the 8 truck chassis that we had put on order at the price that we originally were quoted under the contract due to the price of steel going up so high. And so this request is to ask you to allow us to increase that price in the contract so that we can get those truck chassis in line and the bodies. And Paul alluded to the fact that steel went up, and it sure has. It's still going up. We would like to get this approved so that we can move forward. We debated and talked to Rachel Anderson, our legal counsel, about, you know, should we go ahead with this? Is there a way to do this in our contract? There is a way to allow this price increase, this escalation. The concern was if we went out for RFP to try to get, you know, maybe a lower price, that we actually would get a higher price because steel is going up so quickly. So we wanted to move forward on this, and I don't know if you have questions. We also have Andy King, our asset coordinator, who's been working with our vendors, if you have questions. The price increase per chassis is $7,957, and the total adjustment amount that we would be asking for now to approve, and then a budget adjustment hearing in February, would be the $63,656 for these particular truck chassis. There are other things that we'll need in that budget adjustment hearing that we can talk about, but for now we're just talking about these 8 truck chassis.
Mr. Chairman, Jim Bradley, I think you're absolutely right in the analysis that steel is going to continue to increase in price, and that moving now would be prudent. If you're willing to entertain a motion, I would move that we move forward on purchasing the trucks.
Second, Dan Gibbons.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Next item is 4.7, confirm, sorry, Pam, go ahead.
Just thank you. I think Andy is texting our provider right now as we speak to let them know that that's approved and we want to move forward, simply because there will be a delay on those as well. We'll get into that a little later, but thank you so much.
Yeah, steel prices and availability continue to be a problem, so the sooner the better. 4.7, confirm February public hearing and budget adjustment to increase the amount for capital purchases, including the 2021 light duty trucks. Pam.
Okay, so just Paul mentioned that we have the light duties that we were supposed to purchase in 2021, and we were not able, they did not arrive. There are delays in trucks arriving to us. So we will need to add not just the amount that we talked about just for the side load chassis, but the light duty trucks, those two. And we'll have that up for adoption and an amended capital purchase for the capital items. Rachel, is there anything else we need to know? We can do this as part of the normal budget, or excuse me, board meeting. Is that correct?
Yep, you've explained it perfectly.
Righty. People without enough coffee.
Okay, do you need us to make a motion on that, Pam? Do you need direction or a formal motion?
I think what do we need, Rachel? A formal approval to set the hearing?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
We can get a motion and a second, that'd be great.
Yeah, Dan Gibbons, Chair, I move that we set a public hearing to confirm February public hearing for budget adjustment to increase the amount of capital purchases. That's my motion.
Eric Barney Magna, I'd second.
Perfect. I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Okay,
Just,
hearing none.
To confirm, that will be at our regular time, the 9 o'clock
Correct.
meeting.
Perfect.
Yes,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be an evening meeting.
Sorry. There we go.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Is there any opposed? Okay. You should have your direction on that, Pam.
Thank you so much. We'll move forward.
You bet. Item 4.8, proposed amendments to the interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County for the building lease and space rental. Pam and Rachel.
Okay, Rachel, I don't know if you want to kick it off or you want me to.
Why don't you go ahead, and then I can answer questions, if any.
Okay. So I believe all the board members are aware, and we did discuss this with our new board members in their orientation, that we have a interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County to rent space here in the office, and we mainly occupy the majority, most of the first floor here, and then we also own property that's across the tracks, that we have our CNG fuel island and a truck barn. What you see here in this amendment is to specify truck barn. In the previous agreement, it said truck wash, so it's nice to have fresh eyes, and Renee Plant caught that when we were reviewing it. But it said truck wash, and we do not own a wash, the county does. But what they, I'm sorry, let me back up just a little bit. So the mayor's office was tasked to go back and look at all of our agreements before we get into the local district reorganization and shore up anything that might need to be shored up. So the mayor's office looked at the building lease, and there were some questions that you as a board had when we entered into this lease agreement about the term. Right now, the term ends on December 31st, 2028. This would extend the number of years, 3 years, going forward to 2032. Or, yeah, is that, no, 31? Anyway, 31, sorry. And basically the question was, what happens after 2028 to the rent? So that question has been answered, is that the term will extend another 3 years, and then what happens is that before the end of 2028, there will be an appraisal done on the property to see what the market would bear for rent at that time, and then there would be a negotiation of how much our rent payment would be. So I think that answered that question as well. The other question that was asked by our board is that would we have equity because we've been paying rent? So the answer is no. It is just like a renter. If you have a rental property, unless you have in your agreement as the owner of that property that you're going to allow equity or some sort of a ownership, then that would take place. But otherwise, we are a renter. This is the county's asset. So I think that answered that question as well. I think I got the main points on that, Rachel. Did I miss anything?
No, that addresses all the concerns that we had kind of, or questions, I'd say, not concerns, that we had previously about what is our status after this is over. And I feel very comfortable with it. When we discussed this with our chair and vice chair before the meeting, they felt comfortable with this. I'm not to speak for you, but we went through this and everyone seemed to be comfortable. We've really been kind of getting a good deal on this rent. They just had us paying a portion of the bond payment, and actually the price goes down every year until the bond payment's over, and that's pretty much unheard of. So we have not been getting a bad deal at all. And to move into a scenario where we will be paying market rent, I can't complain about that. So it lets us know where we stand, and when that time comes around, we'll be able to negotiate on a fair plane, just like we would if we were renting from anyone else, and that's comfortable to me.
This is Dan Gibbons. I wonder if Pam and or Rachel could comment on one other aspect of that, and that is the fact that the property line between the county's property and the district's property is actually right in the parking lot, and how that might affect whether that affects the lease and what that might mean moving forward.
Pam, I don't know if you have anything to add. I would say it certainly makes the situation a little more dynamic, and in that we are both dependent upon each other. The county certainly depends on being able to share that parking space with us. So we really are a team with them, and want it to be able to work out between the two of us. So I think that certainly goes into consideration when we're negotiating, is that we both have something that the other wants, I guess. I don't know, Pam, do you have anything else to add to that?
I think you hit it on the head. This is a great partnership that we have with Salt Lake County, and I think that's the main thing, is to bear that in mind. I just pulled up the original agreement that shows the areas that are included in the agreement. This is the space that we rent, is the majority of the first floor. We share a portion of the training room, conference rooms, things like that. And then the Public Works Department has the second floor. The property lines that Board Member Gibbons was talking about are these here. This is the Salt Lake County parcel. And then just so you know, part of our agreement includes that we share a maintenance cost for the building and also for the grounds, because we do use the grounds as well. So here's the administration building, and up here, I believe this is the North 40, if I'm looking at this correctly. So we occupy and use a portion of the what we call the North 40, or the north yard of this administration building, for our can storage, and then our carts team picks up cans there, delivers them, repairs them there, etc. And so we do have those lines. Here is another piece I believe that Board Member Gibbons was specifically talking about, is that as you can see by the labels, we own Wasatch Front Waste Recycling District. This is the parcel number. We own this portion, and we have where our trucks are parked on the fuel island. The Public Works Department takes some parking spots at the outer edge of this. And again, we don't pay one another to be on that land. What we do is we share the maintenance cost of that land. The other piece that we own is over here, which is pretty interesting, is this parking lot. It's just over 7 acres of what we own. And so this is the crew parking area here. We have a truck clean out where drivers pull up at the end of the day and they clean out their hopper, and that's what that's for. The other piece that we own is this truck barn. So this is just the outer edge of our property that I showed you up on the other map, and this is a truck barn that we own, and I believe this was purchased back in the 80s and built for trucks. And since we have CNG, we cannot park in that barn, but we do share the space. So our rear loaders, our hook lift trucks, and then we share the space with operations where they can park their snow plows, especially in the winter, so they can just load up and go without being covered with snow. That was a lot there, board members Gibbons. Did I hit those key points that you were?
Yeah, and I would just echo what Rachel said, that it is a dynamic situation that calls for a lot of cooperation with the county, not just now, but in the future and in 10 years as well. So.
Agreed. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on these changes, or? If not, I'll accept a motion to adopt this request.
Diane Turner, Murray City. I'll make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County for the building lease and space rental.
Do you have a second?
Phil Cardenas. I'd second that.
Sherry, Jim Bradley, I'm going to at least announce that obviously I'm a party to, or I'm a trustee of each party to this agreement, so that may or may not pose a conflict, but I think it's a good agreement, and I will be voting for it. So, but just I wanted to declare that.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that clarification and for your help in this matter. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Yay.
Okay, that motion passes. Good. We're excited for that and look forward to you taking that back to the county and moving forward on the other issue. Next item is 4.9, board adoption of resolution 4409, recognizing board member Catherine Harris for her service on the Administrative Control Board. Pam, and do you want me to read this, Pam?
Sure. So, Rin, you are still on, are you? Catherine?
Yes, I am here. And you don't have to read the entire thing in the interest of time. But if you want to, go ahead.
Well, I'd be glad to. Do you want me to read the full thing, or should I just tell you how grateful we have been to have your participation in this board and the valuable contributions that you've made? We really appreciate it. Will that suffice, or should I read the resolution? I'll ask you, Pam. What's the question?
Whatever you'd like to.
Muted. Or I was muted. It's entirely up to you whether you want to read it, but I was hoping that I could say just a couple things. I appreciate any thanks, but really the thanks all go to you. This has been a tremendous learning experience. I'm sorry to be leaving, although I'm excited to be moving to the UFA board, and I know that you'll be getting great advice and contributions from our new Township Council member, Robert Pignon, who was able to join us at the beginning of this meeting. I can't express my admiration for all of you and the contributions and the time that you put in, and especially to Pam and all the staff at Wasatch Front Waste and Recycling. I'm really grateful, and again, I have learned so much. This isn't goodbye. I'm going to follow the transition, I hope, from a local district to a special district closely, and hope to see all of you again.
Well, thank you very much.
Sherry, in lieu of reading it, if I could just make a few quick remarks, I just want to thank Catherine. You've been an extremely diligent board member, much more than me in many cases, and certainly have appreciated your perspective and your attention to the details. So good luck on UFA. I don't know if this is a training ground or not, but you'll do great. So thank you.
Thank you. Those are kind words. And you are one of the people that I have learned the most from. So I really appreciate it.
So Rin, I just
Anyone
want
else
a
have any-
personal thank you. Oh, Madam Chair, so just briefly, Rin, I appreciate your advocacy and keeping your eyes on the canyon for us and communicating, especially during those snowstorms, letting us know if roads were safe to travel or not. That was very valuable, so thank you. And I'm sure Councilmember Pignon will carry the torch, so thank you very much.
Thank you to everybody. I'll miss y'all.
Is there any other comments?
So just need a
Okay,
motion and adoption. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Madam Chair, Dan Gibbons, I'll move that the board adopt resolution 4409 recognizing the service of Catherine Harris.
Jim Bradley, second.
Okay, motion is second. All those in favor, please say
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We move on to 4.10, General Manager's Report, Pam Roberts.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to give you a briefing on how we're doing in managing our workloads with the pandemic still surging. Right now, I wanted to review the COVID paid leave that we provided in 2020 and 2021, and just point out the fact that we are not providing any paid COVID leave for 2022. The thought is that vaccines are in place, boosters are available, there's ways to protect ourselves with face coverings, etc. One of the things I wanted to point out is that I'm not sure if all of you board members understand, we have a very generous leave policy. We grant employees 96 hours of sick leave and 96 hours of vacation leave annually. So I believe that there's enough available for staff. I don't think we're leaving anybody short. Where we might run into some leave without pay could be our new hires, but I think we're going to be able to manage effectively in those cases. Right now we are 7 drivers short. We have 7 vacancies right now, still working on recruiting. I'm very thankful that we'll have a new HR manager starting next Monday who can help us to beef up our recruitment for the CDL drivers. And then just so you're aware, from January 3rd was the first Monday through the 16th, we have had 12 employees who have reported needing time off due to COVID-related issues. And so our trends continue to follow the state and local trends. When there's a surge locally, we get a surge. And we're managing the workloads with supervisors going out to drive on routes as needed. So if there's no questions on that, I'll move into last meeting in November. I had asked about considerations for a vaccine incentive, which would include a dollar amount to go along with that. And understandably, there was some debate about that. The information I'm bringing back to you was requested. So it was asked on, what would be the return on investment? Would it be worth it to roll out some sort of an incentive? Would employees be motivated to get vaccinated? So how I gathered the information is through our employee survey. We do an annual employee satisfaction survey. And this year we administered it a little differently. We basically, it was totally voluntary. In the past, we've had our frontline come in and fill out a paper survey, but due to the COVID surges, we elected to do it totally electronic. So we emailed out a link to anybody that uses a computer for their majority of their job responsibilities, and then we send a text with a link to our front line. So we had about 53 respondents of the then 86 full-time employees and 2 part-time that were currently on the payroll. And just so you know, we have 94 total FTEs and 3 part-time. So we were obviously lower in our staffing at that time of the survey. So we asked the questions of, have you received the COVID vaccine, yes or no, or declined to answer? If an employee reported no, they have not received a vaccine, we immediately went to the following question: how likely are you to get vaccinated if there was a cash incentive? And it was outlined, you know, $100 per shot basically, so a total of $300 for the series. There were 48 employees who answered the question. Here's the results, and just a reminder, we contracted with Y2 Analytics to conduct our surveys this year, or excuse me, in 2021. Nearly half, 49% of the employees say that they are already vaccinated, and these are the respondents, but you can think about that's probably a good sample pool for our population here. And while 28% declined to answer, 18 employees indicated that they have not been vaccinated or declined to say more than, two-thirds say they would be unlikely to be vaccinated if an incentive were offered. So 72% of those that responded to that question. So it's not something that I feel like I need to bring back to you to request. I feel like, you know, we've got the information we needed to answer the question. So I don't know if you have any questions on that, but I don't have any desire to proceed. Any questions, Anthony, on that you can see? No. Okay. I'll just keep rolling then. We've talked about the fact that Paul mentioned the fact that we're having trouble getting parts for our trucks. This request that's before you is, I just need direction. It's not something that we need to adjust in our budget. In fact, if we see any kind of an increase in our cost, it would be in the operational budget, which we feel like we could manage. But we run 20 garbage routes every day, 15 recycling routes, which equals 35. When we start up the green waste, we get up to 39 routes per day, and that's 9 months a year. So throughout the year, there's 38, let's say 38 routes that we run every day. Right now, our side load trucks are 53. We are requesting to expand that to 59, and the reasons being are we have an aging fleet, as you may know, and we are actually going beyond what we really wanted to do for replacement, and there's a reason being we've had to hold back some trucks because of part shortages in the past, and then also the fact that we have a delay on trucks coming in. So we're asking to expand our number of trucks so that we can be sure we have enough trucks out on the road every day. We've seen an increase in downtime with trucks, and that is a big piece of that is because of the delay on parts. You can see that. Was there a question?
Yeah, Pam, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh, okay.
Your flow right here. I need to jump to our previously discussed issue. Dan, can you continue and finish up the meeting for me?
Yes, Sherry.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck, Sherry.
And Pam, there was a question from Board Member Barbieri about the number of hours of sick pay. So actually, why don't you wind up your side load truck discussion, and then we can take her question.
Thanks, Dan.
You bet. So, well, as far as the number of trucks we've had down, we jumped to 10 on average in the fourth quarter of 2021, which is very concerning. We need to make sure we have enough trucks out there in service. So that is the reason for this request. Again, it's not a budget adjustment. I just want to make sure that you are okay with this change and increasing the number of trucks. Understanding that it's flexible. If things change through 2022, if all of a sudden sales value goes up, parts are coming in and we can get them regularly, we're not seeing that downtime, we will adjust and report back to you. So I think I just would I'm basically asking for your approval and to move forward on this, if you would.
I would just suggest if there are any board members that have a concern with that, why don't you express them, and we could use that non-expression of concern to be your approval or tacit approval from the board. Any concerns about that, board members?
Hey Pam, it's Patrick with Kearns Metro Township Council. So with the extra trucks, are we hoping we can get extra bodies to drive them too? Or just be sitting on the side waiting for them to take over a down truck?
So, well, we're not asking for additional FTEs or additional driver allocations. We're hoping to fill the vacancies we have, if that hits your question. So those trucks would be used for, since there's a delay on parts or delay on a truck arrival, they're going to be in service as long as we can get the parts to have them maintained. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. So they basically just be a spare truck is what I was getting at.
Yes. Yes.
The hit would come from that we wouldn't be selling them, and so that amount of money that revenue we wouldn't be realizing until we could actually sell them. But I would say with our charter to actually provide this service every week to everyone, it's more important to make sure we can do the service without having to double run trucks and things like that. So I think it's a prudent idea. Certainly as things improve, we can go back to a number that we're more used to.
Yes, and the 8 trucks that we have on order, the side load trucks, and we're going to have a budget adjustment next month, there is a very high possibility that they won't arrive until 2023, but we want to move forward and plan as if they will arrive. But we do know there will be a delay, and that's another big reason why we want to hold some back. Okay, all right. So I believe that
board. Did you get what you need then, Pam, on that point?
I think so. We'll move ahead. Thank you. And then Board Member Barbieri, you had a question on leave?
I did. I was just looking at that 96 hours of paid sick and 96 hours of paid vacation. Is that for people just joining WFWRD, or is that an average over all the employees?
It is accrual rates for the first, I believe, 5 years. I believe. And if you would like to see those accrual rates, we could bring those back. But it does grow as employees stay on longer with WFWRD. Those numbers of hours accrued does grow. And so I believe that basically what employees are earning is a day each month of each type of leave. And I think it's for the first 5 to 6 years. 9 years?
Yeah, 9 and 16 are the intervals, and 6 is the same.
Thank you so much. So it's 9 years. An employee gets to 9 years, and that will grow.
And that's carried over from year to year if it's unused?
Good question. So the sick leave carries over. It's unlimited balance that an employee can accrue over the years. The vacation is up to 320 hours. So if an employee has, at the end of the year, has 340 hours, they will lose that additional 20 hours.
So use it or lose it?
Yes, up to 320.
I'd just be curious to maybe visit that. It's probably too late to revisit that, but that seems rather high to begin with. Maybe, no, I'd love to see Paul down the road do kind of an assessment of what is standard for the industry.
Oh, so accrual rates for our industry or for government in general?
Both.
Both, okay. And when our HR manager starts, she can certainly work with Paul on looking at that and reporting back, if that's okay?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on that one? I do want to point out that we do have new staff that have joined us. Matt is here with us. Dustin Bradshaw has joined us as the Refuse and Special Services Collection Manager. We did have Larry Chipman, who moved into a different position, and so that was a vacant spot that Dustin has joined us from Waste Management with 7 years with them and 5 years with another company, not garbage related, not refuse related, but he has been instrumental already in looking at the town of Brighton and the services we provide up there and providing suggestions. I think he's going to be a great asset, and I don't think he joined us yet. So, and then starting on the 31st, we have Ashley Ashton, our HR manager, and it's been long awaited. Just a reminder that Andrea left us back in October, so very thankful that we had Rachel Ames, who's our HR and payroll specialist, and that position was approved by you as a board, and I'm so thankful. She's been instrumental in making sure we got our benefits. All employees signed up with benefits enrollment at the end of 2021, and getting us prepped for this year and helping with any HR items. And then our sustainability coordinator, Ethan, left us last year as well in late October, early November. So we have McKenna Tuape, who will start with us also on the 31st. Very excited to have her with us and start the education programs right away. There's no questions, Mr. Vice Chair, that is my report.
Thank you, Pam. Is there a need for a closed session? Item 5?
No, sir.
All right. Item 6, other board business. Any other items or discussion topics from the board? All right. Apparently there are none. Next meeting, item 7 is February 28th. We have several items already on the agenda for that, a public hearing for a budget adjustment, training for Open and Public Meeting Act, review of 2021 accomplishments and the satisfaction survey result, and then the status on the potential food waste collection pilot program. That takes care of our agenda. I'll entertain, unless there's any other business or comment, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chair, this is
Also move.
I'd motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second.
Second.
I'll second. Diane.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank
Motion's
you all.
passed. Thanks so much, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you later.